response to gas and oil drilling carried out by the Greek Cypriot government in the Mediterranean, Turkish Cypriots have started their own explorations, backed by Turkey. Euronews talked to Dervis Eroglu, the Turkish Cypriot leader. He accuses the USA and the EU of not being sincere and impartial over Cyprus.
First,
I'd like to ask about the peace talks that have been going on for the last 3 years. You took over the negotiations last year. The oil drilling crisis comes at a time when Turkey has announced that talks cannot go on forever. Do you think this is a coincidence?
It is absolutely no coincidence. This oil issue was discussed for many years, but it is not right to start drilling when unification talks are going on. I told Mr. Christofias that this action would have a negative effect on negotiations and asked him to delay drilling or we would take action. But he ignored our warnings. I think the reason why the Greeks did this was because they wanted to repair their image, which was badly damaged by the naval base explosion in which 13 people died. He wanted sympathy from the electorate. Secondly, he wants to win over Greek nationalist opposition. At the moment, the Greeks have no intention whatsoever of making a deal. He may even have done this drilling to deliberately affect the negotiation process. I mean, this is no coincidence, but a deliberate act.
So you say they took unilateral action and you reacted in the same way by signing a deal with Turkey?
I told them that we have as much right to drill for seabed resources as they have. In October, the situation will be more or less clear. We will see if the tri-party meeting results in an agreement. I said, let's postpone this action until the end of October and evaluate the situation together. If you say this is our right, which you obviously said, then we should talk about the partners and companies to work with. These are decisions that we should take together, but you act alone. We see a hidden intent here. Despite our views, they continued with their actions. This situation has forced us to sign an agreement with the Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan. After this, we started seismic research in cooperation with the Turkish Petroleum Company.
But don't you think this may escalate the crisis further?
Neither Turkey nor ourselves are planning to escalate the tension. However, if our exploration works are harassed by Greek Cypriots or their Israeli allies, we will not remain silent. But we wish to avoid this, because if it happens, we will react. But we have no intention of starting a conflict or a war at all.
Recently, the American State Department said that they're supporting Greek Cypriots' oil drilling efforts. What's your reaction to that? To the attitude of the US and also the EU in this crisis?
Both the US and the EU took sides in this agreement. The EU is sending messages in support of the Greek Cypriots because they belong to the EU. Noble, which is doing the drilling, is a US company. But the American State Department recently made a statement supporting my four-point proposal. However, I believe that there is no need for the EU and US to send messages of support for the Greeks. It is harming the talks. With this support, Greek Cypriots came to the negotiating table with no intention of making a deal. Even the former Cypriot President Kiridis said in his memoirs that we sat around the table as if we wanted a deal, but we never signed an agreement. And he is proud of that. For this reason, if the US and the EU want a peace deal for Cyprus, they must stop spoiling the Greeks and start making decisions to encourage them to sit at the table. For example, if they lift the embargoes on us, this will encourage the Greek side to make a deal with us. There are decisions taken by the UN Security Council against us, against our declaration of republic. They can review these decisions. If they even start talking about that, this will force the Greek side to sit at the table.
Do you think the final solution would be a permanent separation?
You know, as the talks continue, we're trying to form a federal republic, a new state. If this can't be achieved, then separation is another option. I heard that even on the Greek side, this possible separation is being discussed. But for now, I'm not in a position to say for certain. On my agenda, there is a federal republic, completely a new partnership based on two different communities. Not a continuation of the Cyprus Republic, but a new state, a new common state.
The EU has made promises to lift the embargoes. It's been 7 years since the referendum. What do you make of the EU's policy in Cyprus?
I don't find the EU sincere in this issue. They are partial. For instance, before my trip to the UN, for the UN General Assembly, the EU Commissioner for Enlargement, Stefan Füle, called me. He said this oil drilling issue should not go too far. He was trying to do his job, but I said, you must tell this to the Greek Cypriots and not to us. He said he did. And I advised him to use tougher language, so maybe they would stop. But he answered, they are a member state, so we cannot do more than make a phone call. This shows their position. They're encouraging Greek Cypriots. Look, in fact, there is no point of the Cyprus issue which has not been discussed. What is missing here is the intention. Greek Cypriots are playing for time because they have no intention of making a deal or sharing with us. Even today, I say they are playing for time. As you said, Greek Cypriots will take over the EU presidency in the second half of 2012. After that, there are presidential elections in February 2013.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum zaman ayırdığınız için. Çok sağ olun efendim.
Ben teşekkür ederim. Zahmet ettiniz buraya kadar. Çok sağ olun.